Hey, what's up? This is Activated Charcoal here. 2022, well done, you made it. And it's time to start thinking about what kind of things are going to be cool or interesting this year from a fashion perspective, and especially from the world of sneakers, because there is always new and interesting things coming out pretty much every month. Things which will either help set new trends or at least respond to ones that already exist. And I'm coming out of the gate swinging only 2 days into the year with a potential example that we're going to look at in a little bit more detail. And could this shoe be worth picking up when it releases later this year? I am, of course, talking about the Salomon ACS Pro Advanced that we have right here. Salomon as a brand has only been growing in popularity over the last couple of years, kind of reinventing itself almost from something which was exclusively the domain of hikers and trail runners into something far more at the cultural zeitgeist and popular with streetwear and fashion fans. The XT4 and XT6 in particular are very common models now, worn as much in an urban context as a rural one by people that want that look of technical performance but can also appreciate an interestingly designed shoe. Partly fueled too by the array of colour choices from very sleek and refined all white or all black versions to very, very out there wild combinations of colours, and a few collabs too from the likes of Beams, Antwon, Palace did a very eye-catching one, and of course the long-running collaboration between Salomon and Boris Badan-Saberi. Essentially, they're a sneaker equivalent of Arc'teryx, a brand who have seen similar success, represent a similar kind of aesthetic, and interestingly are owned by the same holding company. It seems reasonable that a streetwear fanbase already warmed up to Salomon by these models could be looking for something new and interesting which retains that performance-centric look but has something extra to get people excited, or at least something new. Could the ACS Pro Advanced be that shoe? Slated for a February 2022 release with a small pre-release in December, which is when I picked these up. They retailed at, I think they were £195, which is a shade over $200. I think on the EU website they're about €220. Pretty expensive for sure, so worth taking more of an up-close look at these to see exactly what they're all about. Aesthetically, these have some common ground with previous popular Salomon models like the XT4 and the XT6. So if you liked those, you may well be into these as well. However, these do have quite a few differences, which mean, this is not just a colorway upgrade, but something far more significant. Probably one of the first things you'll notice is this cage, which you'll find on each side of the shoe. Transparent mesh underneath and this flexible plastic cage kind of reaching over in an almost skeletal fashion. This creates an open structure for good ventilation and also helps reduce the weight as well. Although interestingly, these are a little bit heavier than the XT6, clocking in at 397 grams versus 365. Of course, that 30-gram discrepancy isn't going to realistically affect how they feel, unless you really are a discerning outdoor person, but it does hint at the fact that there's probably some other changes throughout this shoe as well, which of course we'll cover later. I think it's a great look though, having such a complex structure take center stage here, and combined with some of the other mesh panels that you'll find over the toe box, it almost feels like with this shoe there's as much that's sort of cut away as there is remaining in place. The toe box and the heel are neither super bulky nor really form-fitting and sock-like, with a pretty modern appearance despite the paneling being very reminiscent of an early 2000s shoe. Cool thing on the heel specifically is this double pull tab that I'm sure will have some people thinking, hey, it's got two of something, so it's like a Sakai collab, am I right? No, you're not right. It does mean that you can more easily use both hands to put these on though. Down at the toe box though, you'll see on each side a series of reinforced rectangular panels. Again, it's a cool visual detail and it has a purpose, and it helps protect the front of the shoe and your foot from trail debris, or more likely, that random curb that you didn't see. Another thing that elevates these beyond function-only walking shoe are these metal eyelets on the top of the cage here. They're very shiny and eye-catching. They really bring this to another level. It's almost reminiscent of what you would expect from a premium collab shoe that's updated materials from a standard version to something a bit fancier. Most shoes just don't do something like this, and although it's no way near as eye-catching as having a massive metal plate running down the whole side of the shoe or something, it does just give that little glint of something more interesting than what you might expect. And if the mesh cage looked like a skeleton hand, then these are the fingernails clutching at the tongue at the top of your shoe. Spookiness aside, it does make for a pretty nice integration, two things that work fairly well together, and it means that, well, these are going to do a pretty good job of holding your laces in place. All in all, it's clearly really a shoe that wears its performance on its sleeve. Almost every square inch, there's some kind of material or structural change, and there is a reason for that existing. Even the branding elements on this are generally attached to places that already have a reason for being there. Take the Salomon at the toe, for example. It's exactly on one of those areas where there's a material difference that provides a functional benefit. The possible exception to that is the tape under the tongue here, but it's a tonal Salomon logo. I don't think we can be too upset at them for that. And overall, the branding is clearly visible, but thanks to that tonal nature and its more thoughtful inclusion, it doesn't really appear like an over-branded shoe to me. Going back to the tongue and laces, we might as well start looking at some functional elements of this, the kinds of things that are going to make you actually want to wear the ACS. They use a similar quick lacing system to the XT4 and XT6, and indeed many of Salomon's shoes, meaning that instead of a traditional lacing system, you just have this toggle here, which as you can see is extremely quick to do up and undo. They also do a great job of keeping these shoes nice and secured. I've been very happy with this system on other shoes that I've got that use it, and it works equally well here. I did say similar though, and not exactly identical, because they've changed the tongue very slightly. In previous models, they had a sort of little mesh pocket at the tongue here, with which you could flip this little toggle up into. Well, now they've upgraded this, so there's actually a Velcro little pocket under the tongue, meaning it feels a little bit more intentional and it works a little bit better. The official instruction from Salomon on using these is you tuck the toggle into that little Velcro pocket, and then you tuck the excess lace under another part of lace that's further down the shoe. But if you want a cleaner look, you can just stuff the entire lace into this little pocket, and then you won't see any of that at all. The big performance feature though, which gives the ACS Pro Advanced its name, is the Agile Chassis System. This refers to how the sole is constructed. So not only do we have this all-terrain outsole, which uses contour grip rubber here with a couple of different densities, you've got dual density EVA foam in the midsole to help give a nice amount of support and comfort where it's needed on the shoe, but you've also got some elements here which are designed specifically for torsion control. Purpose of that is to help stabilize the shoe, particularly against any unwanted lateral movement or twisting of the shoe, and of course your foot within that, so you're going to be less likely to roll your ankle in these, especially over difficult terrain. You'll see evidence of this at the back of the midsole where you've got this kind of silver bar running across here, and you'll see as well towards the center of the outsole, you've got these rubber elements which come up here as well, which prevent the midfoot from sort of twisting too much. Now I have to admit, while I do have a pair of Salomon Speedcross, which I've used a lot for more rugged terrain, I've been a little bit hesitant to wear these out on the muddy UK trails so far. This is quite a delicate colorway, and let's face it, I'd rather not get my £200 pair of Salomons trashed immediately. So my use so far is based far more on urban wear. Are they a little bit overkill for that? Well, potentially, but honestly I found these to be extremely comfortable and stable with good lateral support as well. Effectively, these do everything that they say on the tin. Underfoot, they aren't super padded but have a light spring to them. They're not really a shoe that you sink into, but you do feel fairly agile wearing them. Having a look at the laces as well, they provide a really nice unilateral tightness across the whole top of the shoe, so certainly no issues there. And as you might have guessed from this big mesh cage and the heavy ventilation over the toe box, this is a very well ventilated shoe, so going to be suitable for a whole range of different temperatures. And to speak on sizing, my true size is a US 12. I bought these in a US 12, exactly the same as the XT4, and I think they fit pretty much perfectly. Most manufacturers call US 12 a UK 11. Salomon actually say these are a UK 11.5, so if you're going by UK sizing, I definitely recommend going half a size up, or true to size in your US size. All those different elements that we spoke about coming together does give these a clear look of performance rather than a standard lifestyle shoe, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of these technologies are brand new. And in fact, this shoe is based on an early 2000s model called the GCS Pro. You can absolutely see the similarity here, and it kind of gives authenticity to the retro look of the ACS whilst clearly being a brand new design. That archival dimension to these is clearly going to appeal to fashion fans where the history behind behind cool stuff and knowing more about the inspirations behind the things that you're wearing is becoming cooler and cooler. That's something that Salomon are clearly very aware of, and the ability of this shoe to appeal to fashion fans, not just outdoors people, with the official website describing them as having archive style. We've kind of glossed over the colorway here, but it's actually super important with a shoe like this because there's a delicate balance between going overboard and it looking too kind of mountain ready to appeal to fashion fans, or playing it too safe with like a plain black or a plain white and just none of those interesting design elements really standing out and you just not being able to get a good sense of everything that this shoe is doing. That's only exacerbated as this shoe is launching in a single color which they're calling Metal Frost Grey and Silver. Fortunately, I feel like they've done a pretty good job with this one. This is a colorway that immediately differentiates it from many of the other outdoor performance shoes on the market, and indeed many of the previous Salomon shoes before this one. It's a quite unusual light grey with a very slight green tint to it. I actually find it very similar to the chalk colorway used on the Arc'teryx System A collection, almost as if the two were designed to appeal to a very similar market. But it does allow these different material changes to stand out a little bit more, and you'll see that slight tonal variation much more than if this shoe was a plain white or a plain black. As a result, I think from a colorway perspective too, it's a pretty good looking shoe. But is it enough? Popular XT6 models have the standout multicolored tape on the tongue. A lot of them will have these contrasting colors which are very eye-catching, especially if we're talking stuff like the Palace collaboration. These are more subtle, more classy, and they're relying a lot more on those little design elements like these metal eyelets here and like the transparent cage to do some kind of visual work rather than just a super crazy bold color. As a result, it feels a lot more like this is a if you know you know kind of shoe. You're relying on others picking up on those more subtle elements, and for some people that is absolutely going to be an advantage, and outfits that I've seen so far of people wearing these really embody that kind of attitude with these low branded but high performance looks. But people after a neck breaking sneaker are probably not going to find it with this model. In fact, the ACS Pro Advanced is exactly the kind of sneaker which could benefit from a creative collab in order to have these perceived as more of a desirable fashion sneaker and draw more attention to these great looking design elements. Even more colorways which build on the success of the XT6 I think would be great to see, as would some more artisanal options from 11 by BBS. I very much hope we see some object dyed versions of these, because with so many different materials and panels being used, I think we could have some really cool results. So yes, the more subtle aesthetics of this shoe are probably going to be a sticking point for people that want more eye-catching sneakers. The other big potential one is the price. This could definitely impact the popularity of this shoe. The XT6 was hardly cheap, and although they were pretty popular, they still had relatively good availability throughout the season, and now in the January sales, you will find some of those models in some sizes on sale. It certainly suggests that they weren't underpriced, and even comparing these to my Bamba 5s, which are effectively a pair of XT4s, yes, there are areas where these are clear improvements on those, and certainly overall, from a comfort performance perspective, I would pick these, but those are already so good, you can get a lot of the experience of the ACS Pro Advanced by spending a lot less money. As a result, it feels like the ACS Pro Advanced is more in the realm of people who are keen on experiencing the new tech implementation, the aesthetic details, the frankly unique colorway on offer here, and getting that feeling of, well, these shoes are better than the regular shoes because they've got XYZ on them. For your average sneakerhead though, who's maybe more typically interested in Jordans or high-profile collabs, these are probably a step above your area of interest for now. But if Salomon as a brand interests you and you really like the idea of performance footwear that happens to look really cool, and you can stomach the price, then I think the ACS Pro Advanced is doing a lot of things right, and it's a shoe that I'm personally going to really enjoy wearing. And if not, well, I'd totally recommend still taking a look at the XT4 and the XT6. They're no longer the new kid on the block, let's face it, they've been done as a style and covered ad nauseum in however many think pieces and articles, but they're still really good shoes at the end of the day. But for now, that's everything about Salomon and the ACS Pro Advanced. Let me know what you guys think about these. I feel like it's going to be another divisive one. Some people are really keen on these performance aesthetics, and from that perspective, I think the ACS really nails them, but I know some others, you know, they prefer the Sakai stuff or those other more outlandish things, which I also tend to look at. So if you're more in that camp, then these might not be up your street, especially at the relatively high retail price. Either way, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the review, do give it a like, because that is super appreciated and very helpful for the channel. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for checking out the Razer mask video last week. Quite a few of you guys had similar thoughts to me on the aesthetics and kind of positives and negatives. Guzzy Hero, for example, not 100% sold on the kind of face distortion there. And thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed, then please consider doing so. It helps the channel grow. It means that we can do more cool technical fashion videos, and everyone loves those, right? Anyways, there's going to be more of those coming up next week. I've got some fun ideas planned, so let's do it.